and welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding, and life. I'm your host, Tracy Fryer. Remember, if you do enjoy this episode, we ask that you please like and subscribe below. My guest today is an absolute powerhouse of a business owner. I had the privilege of being in a mastermind with this lady 2 years ago, and she is the founder of Complete Approvals, a mom, and is a jiu-jitsu enthusiast, which we'll ask her more about in a moment. Kosoula Chase, welcome.
Thank you very much. What an amazing introduction. Thank you, Tracy.
No problem. You're more than welcome. It's the absolute truth.
Wow. Well, it has been such a long time since we've caught up, and it's so lovely to see you again.
Yes, likewise. I think it's been about 2 years, right?
Oh, yeah, and it's just gone by in a blink of an eye.
It's so scary. And Kosoula, I have to say, I have been following you on social media, and you have just completely the last 2 years grown even more into your own and your confidence, and you look amazing. And we would love to know your secrets.
What is my secret? I don't know that I have a secret. Thank you very much for the compliment, first of all. Yeah, it's just been whirlwind. I think my confidence has really come around the business side of things, just being into that 7th year now, coming up to 8 years later on this year. And
congratulations.
Thank you very much. I feel like I finally found my groove. Things have come up in the business, and like they always do, people leave, people move on. You need to find new amazing talent to come in and become part of your team and really take the reins, and for the short term it's a bit of a panic, and you're sitting there wondering, how am I ever going to do things without this person? But then one door closes and another door opens, and you just blossom and grow and move with it. And I feel like that's my own journey as well throughout the time that we've been going through business. So yeah.
And have you found that, finding the right people has been one of the challenges that you faced?
Absolutely, especially in the building industry. At the moment, there is just such a shortage of people across the board. And, there is a shortage of people, but then there's also an even bigger shortage of good people, and finding good people to work in your business that align with your values, that are doing things the way that you would also do them and really fit and integrate well. That's the real tricky part. And I think as long as you're never there just to settle. I've always been wanting to, my whole philosophy, I suppose, in business is to put my best foot forward. And to do that, I make sure that I don't settle on people. I don't settle on circumstance. We put our best offer forward every single time. And I feel like that's the same with people. Our team members, we may bring on somebody thinking that they're a great fit, and we find out quite quickly that that person is perhaps not the best person for the job, or is good at what they do, but they don't fit within our team core values. So rather than let that person continue and, obviously work through in our team, but also is not in the best place perhaps for themselves, we part ways. A nice way to kind of put it. We part ways and we move on. Yeah. And then we find the right fit for us. And we always found that doing that means that we have the best team possible, and we can provide our clients with the best service possible when that happens. So it's all about being there and being the best for our clients. And that's how we kind of look at business, I suppose.
And Kosoula, before we dive into business, I want to rewind. So take us back. So I know you're of Greek heritage, a bit like myself.
Yes. I have a Greek father and a English mother, and they both emigrated to Australia and met over here.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm a bit the same. So my dad is part Greek, and then my mom obviously being South African. But I can imagine being from a European family, there's a lot of sort of, I guess, beliefs that come with that upbringing. And how do you find those have filtered into your business, if you don't mind me asking?
I think, definitely the beliefs, especially from my my Greek culture more than anything. I suppose it was a tough sell to my dad that his daughter was going to start working within the building industry. And I've always been told that I can't and that I shouldn't. And my answer is, well, look what I've done. So
Amen to that.
I won't be told no. I won't be told that I can't. And realistically, I think there are two types of people in the world. There are people who would be told they can't and they shouldn't, and they would go along with that. And there are others like myself who will use that as fuel on the fire and continue to push forward and just to do what feels right and feels good for us. Yeah. But I think I think the work ethic definitely has come from my heritage. I would definitely. My dad is a farmer from way back when he was in Greece. Brought up in a farming family, so always working hard. And then he became a house painter over here in Australia. Took up a trade and did that for the rest of his working career over here. So I think being exposed to the industry quite early on, and with that through my dad, and being on site and running around and doing all the things that you do as a kid when he's sometimes working on the weekend, and I wanted to go along, so I got to go along and see what he does. And I think that may be how I suppose it came about working in the industry, but definitely the hard-working background and making things work, I think, definitely comes from my heritage for sure.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And I wanted to ask, so when you're told no, take us through what exactly goes through your mind, because I know what I'm like. I'm driven like next level. I'm just like, steps done, off I go.
Yeah,
so walk us through. Is it something that do you kind of take it as a challenge, or what's the steps that you kind of go through?
Well, I think it's just if that's something that I want to do and I'm being told no, or, girls shouldn't work in the industry, in the building industry, or, something along those lines. And full disclaimer, like my dad is quite an older gentleman. So, it just comes from that age of thinking. It was never meant to be malicious. It was just a case of it's just not what you do.
Yeah.
And they don't know
from
better,
that time.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I think that my thinking is if this is something that I want to do, I don't understand why I can't do it. I'm physically able to do it. I'm mentally able to do it. So I'm going to do it. And yeah, I think it is one of those, give a big thumbs up, a big middle finger to.
We'll go with a thumbs up.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, yeah, it's giving it a big middle finger, and you know what? I don't care what anybody says. This is what I want to do. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen.
And I guess, how do you navigate through that? Because I can imagine there'd be some people that kind of still say, oh my gosh, you're crazy. Why are you doing what you're doing? Do you just have this internal, I guess, intuition that kind of guides you through that?
I think so. I call it gut instinct. I've always listened to my gut, and I don't know. I just knew from an early age that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in the building industry. And I think it was from maybe mid-high school, when, at high school early on, you get to try all the different things. So you get to do cooking, and you get to do, I don't know what else is
woodwork.
Textile. Yes, and woodwork and those sorts of things. Well, graphic design happened to be one of them. And it was graphic design. And so we tried graphic design, and that was great. And then we moved across into more of the architectural design. And as soon as I did that, I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is it.
Great.
So I continued that. It was one of my selections every year. And by the time I finished or got to year 12, I had a look at what I could do with that. And I thought, I absolutely love doing this. Oh my gosh. I absolutely love doing this. So what can I do with it? And how can I make this into a job? So I went and studied at TAFE, and I did building design and architectural drafting. And basically moved on from there and have been working in the industry ever since. But then that wasn't enough. So I wanted more. I wanted to push through and make my own thing and make my own mark in the world. And that's when I started looking into the possibility of starting a business. Yeah.
And then?
Wow. So then at that stage, I had two very little children. I had a 5-year or almost 5-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. And I was working part-time in a corporate role. And yeah, I just started doing this side gig at nighttime. So I'd work through the day, I'd come home, I'd make sure the kids are okay, do school pickup and make sure the kids are okay, help them with their homework. Well, one of them with their homework at that stage, and then put them down for bed at night time. We always sort of spend that real family time together in the afternoons, and yeah, then I started working on my own business at night time. It started as maybe a couple of hours after the kids had gone to bed, and then it grew very quickly into working all night.
Wow.
Yes. So the goal was to grow my business, my side hustle at that point, into a full-blown business, and then be able to move away from working corporate and work purely for myself. That happened in, I believe it was just a little over 2 years. And I ended up, my moment where I knew that it was time to leave the corporate gig was on more than one occasion, working until 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning to actually get my side hustle stuff finished, leaving the children notes. I'd get their breakfast out ready to go for the morning, and I left them a little sticky note on the door to say, "Mum worked until very, very early this morning. Please help yourself to breakfast. I will be up very soon and we'll get ready for school together."
Yeah.
And it was at that point that I said to my husband, something's got to give. And
yeah,
it's got to be the corporate role. It has to be. I don't want to change anything with anything else. Everything else is just amazing. It's time. So we were due to go on Christmas leave, as the building industry does. It shuts down at Christmas time. So we were due to go on Christmas leave very soon. So I backtracked that, gave my month's notice, and January the following year, I started working 100% for myself. Just have not looked back. Best decision I made. Yeah.
And walk us through what was the feelings that you had when you resigned that day? Because I know it was quite a profound day for myself.
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. Because this corporate role that I'd been there for such a long time, and they had been absolutely amazing as I went through the journey of, becoming a mum, going on maternity leave, and then coming back, and the flexibility that goes with that role as well. So coming into the office of the estate manager to give my notice in, I was petrified. I felt like
I can imagine.
I was absolutely excited that it was finally happening, but the fear was real. And walking in there, I was an absolute wreck. It was just all of the emotions happening all at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you can relate.
I can. Yes, it was terrifically terrifying, but the most exhilarating thing I've ever done, and lots of tears.
Yes. So
I
think that they may have been waiting for it.
Yes.
But once I'd gone in there, we had a good discussion, left on great terms. And as it happens down the track, and still now, this corporate the corporate place that I was working at is now a client of ours. So
fantastic.
Yeah, never burn your bridges. You never know what's around the corner. But yeah, it was the most amazingly terrifying, as you say, thing to do.
It is.
But once it was all done and dusted, and I'd managed to muster up the courage to get through that, I walked out of the estate manager's office and I just felt a relief. That I'd done the right thing. and just pure excitement of what was to come. Yeah.
Yeah, and that relief, like it's such a crazy feeling because you just feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders. And obviously a business has its own like challenges and workload, but once you've kind of stepped away from your employment or kind of something that you're comfortable in, it's just I can't describe the feeling, but yeah, it's an absolute relief.
It is a relief. Until then, you realize that it is all on your shoulders, and that also becomes terrifying all over again.
Yes. But I wanted to highlight that. So for 2 years, you kind of you worked at night, and then obviously during the day you had your job.
Yeah, I did. I think I was working at that stage maybe 15 hours, 20 hours a week part-time, but it was between school
Yes.
hours. So I did the school run on the way to the corporate role, and then worked my hours there, did the school and daycare pickup on the way home, sorted out the kids, put them down to sleep at night, and then started my own side hustle work.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And then how much sleep were you getting, Kosoula?
Probably nowhere near enough. Especially on the nights that I worked until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And had you obviously built a client portfolio during that time as well, or?
Yeah, so it started with just one client right at the beginning, and it was basically just a touch my toe to the water and see whether it was actually going to work. If the structure that I had in mind and the services that we were offering was something that could be replicated and used across various client jobs and things like that. So we put things together. It was a little bit of a testing period to kind of try different things. But yeah, we built. Well, I built. I say we. I always talk about myself. Yes. It was built then from one client until I left to maybe, I think, about 4 or 5 clients at that point. And that was regular work because we are mostly a business to business company. And so at that point, it was definitely business to business. And so repeat work, it was, going really well. The feedback from our clients was amazing. And then after that one client, as we sort of started right at the beginning, was getting that feedback was really important, just to make sure that what we were doing was, one, what they were after, and two, actually working. And, from their point of view, not just from how I was seeing it. So then, after a few months and getting the feedback throughout that time, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so this might actually be a thing. We may have to give this a go. So then increasing that over the 2 years up to, I think 4 or 5 is from memory, clients at that point, and doing everything myself. So that was drafting, that was, answering emails, that was submitting applications to council, doing all of the administration side of things, invoicing and quoting
as
all
well,
of those. So needless to say, when I did start working for myself that January, my very first person that I brought onto the team was an administration lady who is still with me today. She's now my office manager.
Oh, fantastic. So she's still with you all this time.
She has been with me this whole time. Yeah. And because admin, oh my gosh.
Oh, you and me both. No. I get it. Definitely. And you also have to think about, like, what's a productive use of your time? Is it, whilst all that other stuff has to happen, it's sometimes best if someone else who actually enjoys that or is better at it is doing that, and it works as part of the team.
Yeah, for sure. And there are many people out there that are so much better at admin than I am.
Same. Well, Kosoula, I'm most impressed, and I have to just take a moment to celebrate you. So you had 2 small children, working a day job, and then sign up your own thing at night in the space of 2 years, and that is not that long. Like, well done. That is fantastic that you did that in such a short time frame. And I mean, I only have fur babies, and I've heard human babies can be a whole nother experience. So I just, I so much respect for all you've achieved in that time frame. And, coming up on 8 years, that's some seriously hard yards and determination like no other.
Yeah. It 2 years, looking back at it now, was only a very short time, but while you're going through it, it's not. It feels like forever.
It does, yeah. It almost like time sort of drags, because I think it's because you're almost doing so much more in a shorter time frame, and the lack of sleep as well. You feel like a zombie.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And Kosoula, walk us through what problems does Complete Approval solve for their clients?
We solve the building design problem that a client might have. But basically, the work that we do in the industry is between design and architectural drafting right through to building permit. So, for instance, a builder might get us onto their team, and we would meet with the client, discuss all of the things that they would like in their new home, have a look at solutions and work through the design stage, and then basically we will do the drafting for the planning stage, and then building documentation as well. We work through all of we run the council application for planning and for building, but then also provide the services for all of the building documentation needed, because there is quite a lot that's involved in putting an application into council for a new home or a new structure of any size, really. We provide all of the building documentation side of things, and then also run the applications through council and just manage that process. So I suppose the real problem that we would solve is time back in people's days, and letting them do the work that they most love doing, and the work in their zone of genius. So then we do the work in our zone of genius, and we can each love what we're doing.
Love that. It's especially when you're dealing with the council and that sort of thing. I've heard it can be quite a process. So it's really great that you guys kind of manage that and oversee it for your clients.
Yeah, it is. It can be challenging at times, and we find that by running the process and managing that process through council, we can streamline it as much as possible. We become the point of contact for council. So if there is any question that they have, or any extra documentation that they may need us to supply, then rather than the client kind of getting involved in that, we would deal with that. And then at any point where there is a decision to be made on, that may affect something down the track, or how the build is going to finish, then we would always get our client involved and just provide them with some options, give them our advice on which way we think is best for them to go, but always be there to support our client, and then basically be that go-to between council and client.
And how long do you find that process usually takes? Does it depend on the project at hand, or like getting the council approval?
It depends on a lot of things, actually. It depends on the size of the project. Sometimes if you're talking new homes over, say, like a shed in your backyard, it is very different. The process, I suppose the process of council actually assessing the application is different, dependent on the size of the structure. But saying that, they also have statutory times that they need to keep to, most of the time. And it also depends on which council we're talking about too, because the busier the council with more and more applications coming through, the longer it takes to get through that process.
And are there times where things can often get rejected?
We have had maybe a couple of rejections over the time that we've been doing this, but that's just simply because there is a misalignment what we've found anyway to this point is that there's a misalignment between what can be done and what somebody may want to do on their property. And although we strive to provide that information, sometimes people want what they want, and we have to try and rein it in as much as we possibly can, but sometimes it's just a case of letting it run that course. And yeah, rejections unfortunately are part of that. We just minimize it as much as possible. And it's not something that has happened for us quite a lot. Like I said, there's only been a couple over the time that we've been doing this. So it's pretty good, really. It's a pretty good success rate.
That is, yes. It's because Don and I, we moved house March last year. We're busy renovating, and every time I'm like, oh, we should do this and do that, and like build this. Yeah, I'm like, we need council approval. I'm like, just park it. I can't be bothered. But now I know I'm going to harass you.
Yes, for sure. I would love to be harassed.
Yes, definitely. Well, yes, we've been doing quite a lot of renos in that. It's been fun. It's our project house, shall we say? But yeah, we'll definitely be reaching out.
I've been watching you on social media and lots of painting. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's one way to test your marriage, right?
Yeah, any renovation project will definitely test your marriage. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Thank goodness we didn't do the flooring, because I might not still be but no, we decided that we would paint, but with our house it had like a data rail going across the middle of the wall. So we'll just like pull it off, and just to modernize things. And as we pulled the data rail off, sheets of paint of the last 30 years came off the wall. So we had to get a scraper, and because all tradies were booked out, it was, a year ago, everyone was flat out for 6 months. So we would have waited ages. So we're like, no, don't worry. We'll just go to Bunnings, the 200th trip to Bunnings, and get a scraper. And we scraped it all off. Oh my gosh. It was exhausting. Hats off. Hey, but and we ended up plastering it, and we painted, and it finally got done. But what an experience.
Oh, it is definitely an experience. Anything to do with a home. It doesn't matter if it's a new home or if it's just a small renovation, a patio, like anything.
Always.
It can be quite stressful. Absolutely.
It can. Yeah. So we now we finally have door handles, because we had these old like brass ones, but shame they were just old. So we took all of those off. We'll paint the doors, get it all done. And then obviously we got sidetracked doing other stuff. So we kind of just, the whole, we're kind of just using that to open the doors. Yeah. And Don finally put the door handles on, but never straightforward. There's one that doesn't fit. And I was like, oh my goodness, whose idea was this? But she's getting there, and it's looking really good, because you can put your own spin on things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, renovation homes are great because you can change all sorts of things, and it becomes yours. It's your style.
It does.
You would like it to look. It just makes such a difference.
It does, definitely. So no, it's been great. We've actually had a lot of fun. While it's been testing, it's been a very fun project as well. So Kosoula, what sort of challenges have you faced as a business owner? I know you mentioned hiring team was one of them. Are there any others that you found that have really kind of, I guess, pushed you completely out of your comfort zone?
I think facing your own beliefs and your own belief systems are, I think, part and parcel of growing in business. So, having a look back, and I know that we went on quite a few business coaching events together, and at one of them there was a financial man that came in and did some work with us. And working through that stuff, I really realized that at that point in time, I had a lot of negative thoughts and energy around money. And I think this is I don't know, just sort of looking on social media recently, especially, it seems to be quite the theme is money beliefs, and trying to kind of move through those things. So after that particular event, I did quite a bit of work on myself and how I can implement that in my business. And the last couple of years have just been great, moving past that negative belief system, which basically just was all down to oh my God, I can't think of the word.
That's okay.
I can't think of the word. When you're
like a belief.
When you're lacking.
Like you almost didn't feel you were enough, do you mean, or your self-worth?
You have like I can't think. Holy crap.
That's okay. I'm trying to help, but I'm not helping.
No. It's
what's
abundance, and then the other end of it, the spectrum is
now I can't word either. It's like a scarcity mindset.
Yes, scarcity. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
difficult to
There we
come up
go.
with.
Got it.
Okay. All right. Start that again.
All good. No stress at
Sorry, I'm
all.
just making it harder for you on editing.
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
So I realized that I think with my my early on in the piece, I realized that I had a bit of a scarcity mindset around money, and that was my money belief. And trying to move through that and trying to change that was really hard. It was very confronting. It brought up a lot of emotion that I didn't even realize was there.
Yeah, I can imagine it would.
Yeah, it was a lot to work through, but putting in the work has really made a difference in my business, like being able to look at it from not only a money perspective, but also, because profit and loss is just one very small part of your business, but then also adding in the value of everything else, and not attaching monetary numbers to your own wealth and your own self-worth. So
Yes.
yeah, that was really hard to kind of work through, but very confronting, like I say, but it's so worth it. Really is worth it.
I remember that workshop because I found it a bit the same. Like you've almost got this revenue goal in mind and you're so driven and guns blazing to get there. But then there's all these other layers that kind of come with being able to achieve that revenue goal, or certain things that you might internally struggle with as well. So I remember that workshop, and it opened up a lot for me as well. Confronting is the right word. Because it does kind of get you thinking. Like you might want to achieve a certain revenue or think you can, but there's certain things, and again, this goes back to a number of different things like one's upbringing or your own beliefs that you've formed along the way. And there's certain layers you need to work through in order to believe that you're worthy of earning X amount or achieving those bigger goals in terms of revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. And the work that kind of goes in behind the scenes is just so important. But yeah, putting in the work, moving forward with all of that, and coming out better the other side, that's been a real, like a massive progress for me personally, but also you can sort of see it through the business as well. And it's amazing how hand in hand it all is.
So, Kosoula, if someone is, I guess I want to say suffering, but that's not the right word, struggling. If someone is struggling with a scarcity mindset, what sort of steps could they take to kind of overcome that? Because I know you are someone who has overcome that. I can see it through your branding, in the way that you carry yourself. And I know you've got a podcast, which we're going to talk more about in a moment. What would be, I guess, maybe 2 tips you could share with someone who could be struggling with it?
I think if you can identify, first of all, I suppose, is identifying the fact that you do have a scarcity mindset. And then from that point, maybe just, I suppose, journaling how you feel around certain topics to do with money, especially, or whatever the scarcity is around. Journaling some thoughts on how that makes you feel, and then things that you could do to not feel that way anymore and to kind of move through it. Reading over those points and just really making sure that you address them so that you can move forward. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for myself as well, Evan. When you're trying to create a new belief or new behavior, you have to literally change the neurons in your brain. And myself as well, like I've struggled with this exact thing, and I think I'm still a work in progress, to be quite honest with you. But also having that belief that one is actually worthy, and you're driven, you put in the hard work, you work till late at night, like I've done. That we are worthy and we are good enough to actually, achieve that revenue goal and have the business that comes with that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is a lot of work to overcome. And I think, honestly, like I think everyone, may go through this at some point in their life, but yeah, it takes work, and then it continues to take work.
Constant work.
Yeah.
Kosoula, tell us about your podcast that you have going. I'd love to know more.
Oh, the podcast. My gosh. So I met a lady in the industry called Bronwyn. Bronwyn is the founder of Bronze DC. And she is another designer. She's a building designer, but also an interior designer in the industry. And her and I crossed paths a year or so, actually probably a couple of years ago now. Just got to chatting, and we have basically become business besties, and it's great fun.
Awesome.
So
That's cool.
thought one day we would get together and do a bit of a YouTube kind of recording session on frequently asked questions in the industry. So we started putting that together. We ended up laughing so much that we had to stop all the time, and just had such a great time doing it. We said to each other on the day, I think we should start a podcast. I think it would be really great.
Cool.
So
yeah,
it was born, and it took some time to kind of get into what we were going to do and what it was all going to be about. But it's called She's a Tool, which is a bit of tongue in cheek.
Love
right
that.
there.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation, unapologetic conversations about the building industry. So we cover all kinds of.
That's great.
Yeah. So we did quite a few episodes to start with. We decided to finish off the season and try something different and moving on from season 1. We are currently recording for season 2. So we don't have a release date yet, but it will be soon. So stay tuned. But the difference between season 1 and season 2 is that in this upcoming season, we are actually using examples from the work that we've done, and we're going to run through the pros and cons and the issues that we may have come across and the problems we solved for our clients actually on those jobs. So real life examples.
Great.
And so far, it's just been amazing. It's been a lot of fun again, being in the recording studio with each other, but also just working through the content. And I think it's going to be a really great season.
Awesome. Well, we'll pop the link in the show notes as well, so that way our listeners can head there and check you guys out. Kosoula, I am going to go there, and this isn't a battle of the sexes conversation, but women in the building industry. I mean, let's be real. There is a bit of a thing around it, isn't there?
There certainly is, and there's a thing around it because the number of women in the construction industry is just so little. There are so few of us. And it's not just about how many are in the industry, but it's also about how many stay in the industry. A lot of women will become, study to become part of the industry. And then once they've done their study and they kind of get out into the real world, they find that it really isn't for them. And it's, there's a lot of talk about it. When you sort of think about the building industry Australia-wide, last year, when the figures were all came out, there was only 12% of the industry made up by females, which is such a small.
Wow, that's really low. That is, yeah.
So
I guess why do you think that is? Is it just the idea of it, or just the industry itself, or?
I don't think it's a very female-friendly place to work at times. I think that if you think about the trade, the typical tradie mentality, it's all about the boys and the boys and the boys club. And it doesn't really, it's not a really welcoming environment for a female to be in. Throughout my own career, I have been questioned time and time again on how a male might be able to take advice from me, because I am a female, so I mustn't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the building industry. And it's something, it's a hurdle that I've had to overcome time and time again. It doesn't make it any easier just because I've had to do it so many times. And in this day and age, you kind of think, well, I don't understand why that thinking is still around. But unfortunately, I think it comes with the older generation. So hopefully, as we get to retirements, hopefully that will fade out, and then it might just be a better environment for females to be part of. And I'm really hoping that, businesses out there in the industry will do something about it and really try to not only bring women into the industry, but keep the women in the industry, because it's so important. And we do the job just as well as anybody else out there. So yeah, as long as you're getting the right people for the job, then why not?
And I guess, how do you handle those conversations when you do get a bit of pushback, from a male builder, for example?
It is difficult to have that conversation. It is a hard conversation to have, because as you can imagine, it's talking about their beliefs. All that I can say is that I've just had to prove that I can do what I can do, even though I shouldn't have to, because my word should hopefully be enough. It usually is.
As you would think so, yes. Yeah.
But then once I think you kind of get into the project and they see that you can do what you say you can do, it does, well, in some cases, it does change. But it's not just about people working out there in the industry. This is right through governments and government departments. And even though they are part of the industry as well, it's not just people working out there in the industry. It is also from the office side of things. So it can be really tough, and I can totally understand why people don't stick around. But it is such a great industry to be part of, and I really wish that it could be different, and I really hope that in the future it will be different.
So do you feel once those sort of, I guess, older generations move on, shall we say, it might change?
I really hope so. I don't know 100%. I mean, obviously we can't know into the future, unfortunately, but I am really hoping that the people that I've come across anyway that have had these sort of attitudes have been the older generations. So hopefully that's what it is across the board. And then once retirement kind of comes up for those people, we'll see a fresh start for the building industry in Australia.
I mean, I know that, men and women, we have like physical strength differences, but in terms of, project managing or, that planning side of things, or sketching, or things where we don't have to lift a boulder, shall we say?
Yeah.
If you've had the same training or whatever it may be, there's equality that can be found, I guess, between men and women in that space.
Absolutely. And I've never understood why you would treat somebody differently just because they're a female over a male. I just don't understand that. I work hard to, well, I just don't. I was going to say I work hard not to, but I just don't. I think that you should take people on their merits, and why should it be any different for a male in the industry doing a designer's job than it is for a female in the industry doing a designer's job? They have the same qualifications. They do the same thing. I just personally don't see a difference. But unfortunately, that is not shared across everybody in the industry.
No, and I find the one that loves to get dropped is that, women are so emotional and we're always falling apart at the seams and damsel in distress. So it's those stereotypes that just drive me nuts.
Yes, 100%. Those stereotypes they're thrown around quite a lot. And then also things along the lines of, why maternity leave and things like that. And I just, in this day and age, again, I just don't know why that has to be an issue at all. I mean, women have babies. Yeah, that's great. And we move on.
Do you mean that it's an issue that people take maternity leave? Is that what you're saying?
Not that they take maternity leave. I think from a employer's perspective, I mean, out there in the world, it can be. I feel like even though it shouldn't, again, go against you, but I feel like it may go against you if you were coming up against a male that is going for an interview, because at some point or another you might decide to get pregnant and you might decide to have a family. So that's going to be a problem. Yeah.
Yes, and you might be replaced or come back to work and you might be in a different role. Yes, I've heard all of that before. It actually is very real, and I think we like to think that we live in this very liberated society, but I think there's still a lot of those things kind of bubbling under the surface that need to kind of be discussed and sort of hit the nail on the head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's only once we can openly discuss them without backlash and things like that as well. That's the way forward, is to be able to openly discuss these things and to come to solutions. But then I suppose the difficult part becomes changing people's thinking, and
Yes.
that's never something that can happen overnight, unfortunately.
No, that's the hardest part, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, and Kosoula, that's why I think it's so great. You've got your podcast and your branding. Obviously, being in the space, your branding is looking really great. You really, I think, are leading the way in what you're doing. So it's great
Thank
to
you.
see.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Tracy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's all right. It's great to reconnect with you. And I guess before we sign off, Kosoula, what's some words of wisdom you'd have for someone who is, thinking of starting their own business, could potentially be a mom with small kids? What words of wisdom would you share with them?
Do it. Absolutely do it.
Great. Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Love it. Nice and
If you're
short.
thinking about it, do it. Don't even hesitate. Just try it. What have you got to lose? If it works, amazing. If it doesn't work, that's amazing as well. At least you know that particular way doesn't work. Let's try a way that does.
Yeah. And I love that, because someone said to me when I, was umming and ahhing, because it took a little while, they said, if it doesn't work, you can always go and find another job, or, it's not the end of the world. If it doesn't work, there's still options. Whereas I think some people kind of view it, oh my gosh, if I leave my job, and again, we're so conditioned by thinking of society, right? If I leave my job and my comfort zone and it doesn't work, that's the be all and end all. And whilst there is some shame that I guess or embarrassment that would come with that, there's still another option at the end of the day.
There's always another option. Like you say, you can always go and find a job and then maybe try again. But if you don't try, you're never going to know. And I would much rather try and fail and then know that, okay, so that didn't work. Let's try something else. Let's try plan B, or let's go back to the drawing board. I'll get a job in the meantime and give it a go again down the track. But always give it a go. Never die wondering.
No, 100%. And even myself, I tried to go out to my own probably about 10 years ago now. Fully underestimated the amount of work involved, and I guess the mindset that one needed. So dabbled in it, but I also didn't fully leave my full-time employment, which I think there is a big mindset shift, as we discussed earlier, when one does burn that, not burn the bridge, but just chop that off and kind of, move on. So it was take 2 for me, July 2020, and it's been great. I've learned so much.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I think mindset is a really big one. I think if you, perhaps the model that you try to kind of start a business with doesn't work, but if the mindset is not there to support it, then it's probably not going to work, or if it's not going to work well. I think, I was the same. I tried, before I started Complete Approvals, I had tried a year or 2 previous to that. And that was a spectacular fail, but that's fine.
Well, look where you are now, so it all worked out. Hey,
exactly. It's all worked out. I just learned what not to do.
Yes, you and me both. As in, don't sit back and expect it to fall in your lap, because it ain't going to happen.
Exactly right. Yes. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
No, definitely not. Kosoula, where is the best place for our listeners to connect with you?
I am very active on Instagram. So our handle there is @complete_approvals. Otherwise, LinkedIn is a great place to find me too. Just look me up under Kosoula Chase.
Great. And if someone is thinking of, adding that extra double story or building a house, where would be the best place for them to go?
Again, head to Instagram at @complete_approvals.
Cool.
We have send us through a DM, and otherwise there is a contact us form on our website, which is completeapprovals.net.au. Send us through a request from the website. There's also a place that you can attach attachments if you've got some sketches or something in mind that you'd like us to have a look at. And we'll be in touch from there.
Awesome. Well, Jem, thank you so much for your time, Kosoula. It's great to see you again and chat with you. And thank you for all you shared with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. It's been great to see you too.
Likewise, chat soon.
Okay, bye.